Welcome to my channel, Rise Up with Steve. Please hit like, subscribe, and don't forget to share with your friends. Let me tell you something most people don't want to hear. The moment you stop begging, chasing, explaining, and overgiving, that's the moment things start to change. Not because you played a game, not because you manipulated anyone, but because you finally chose peace over panic. See, when someone starts pulling away, our first instinct is fear. We text more, we call more, we explain more, we try harder. But what we don't realize is this: desperation never creates desire. It only creates pressure. And pressure makes people run. Letting go peacefully doesn't mean you didn't care. It means you cared enough about yourself to stop forcing what isn't flowing. Here's the truth: when you stop chasing, you give him space to feel your absence. And absence is powerful. When you're always available, always adjusting, always forgiving without accountability, there's no urgency to choose you. But the moment your energy changes, so does the dynamic. Peace is attractive. Confidence is attractive. A person who says, "I'll be okay whether you stay or go," sends a message louder than any argument ever could. Letting go peacefully is not silent suffering. It's quiet strength. It's waking up one day and deciding, I'm not going to fight for someone who's not fighting for me. And that decision shifts everything. When you chase someone, what you're really doing is telling them without words that you're afraid to lose them. And fear has a way of changing the balance in any relationship. The more you chase, the more you shrink yourself. You start adjusting your tone, your timing, your needs. You replay messages in your head, wondering if you said too much or not enough. And while you think you're fighting for love, what you're actually doing is teaching the other person that they don't have to try, because you'll always be there, filling in the gaps, doing the emotional work for two people. Chasing feels like effort, but effort without peace turns into pressure. And pressure doesn't inspire a connection, it creates distance. Nobody feels drawn towards someone who is pulling at them from a place of anxiety. Even if they once cared deeply, that constant pull can start to feel heavy. Not because you're unlovable, but because love needs space to breathe. When there's no space, appreciation disappears. Peace, on the other hand, changes everything. Peace says, I care, but I'm not going to force you to choose me. Peace is quiet confidence. It's knowing your value without needing constant reassurance. When you stop chasing, you stop performing, you stop trying to convince someone of your worth, and allow them to discover what life feels like without your energy. And that's when the shift happens. Because absence does something chasing never can. It creates awareness. When you're no longer calling, texting, explaining, or checking in, the noise disappears. The other person finally has room to feel the difference. They notice the silence where your presence used to be. They notice the lack of support, attention, warmth, and consistency that you once gave so freely. Peace pulls people back because it restores balance. It removes desperation from the equation. Instead of reacting emotionally, you respond intentionally. Instead of asking, why aren't you choosing me? You quietly decide, I choose myself. That decision sends a powerful message, even if it's never spoken out loud. When someone sees that you're okay without them, that your life didn't collapse, that your joy didn't disappear, it challenges their assumptions. They expected you to chase. They expected you to break. They expected you to keep showing up no matter how little effort they gave. And when you don't, it forces reflection. Not because you punished them, but because you respected yourself. Chasing says, please don't leave. Peace says, I'll be okay either way. And confidence like that is magnetic. People are drawn to those who know when to step back. Not because it's a game, but because it's emotional maturity. It shows boundaries. It shows that love for you isn't about control or fear, it's about choice. Sometimes letting go peacefully makes someone realize they were about to lose something real. Other times it reveals that they were never meant to stay. But either way, peace protects you. It keeps your dignity intact. It keeps your heart open without letting it be drained. When you stop chasing, you don't lose power, you reclaim it. And the moment you reclaim your power, the dynamic changes. Because now you're no longer asking to be valued. You're allowing others to meet you where you stand. That's why chasing pushes people away. And peace quietly pulls them closer. Letting go is often misunderstood. People think it means you didn't care enough or that you gave up too easily. But the truth is, letting go, especially letting go peacefully, is one of the hardest things you'll ever do when your heart is involved. It takes strength to stop fighting for someone you love. It takes courage to loosen your grip when every instinct tells you to hold on tighter. And yet, that calm release is exactly what changes the energy between two people. When you hold on too tightly, love starts to feel like obligation. Conversations turn into negotiations. Affection turns into reassurance seeking. You begin measuring effort, counting messages, noticing who initiates and who doesn't. Slowly, without realizing it, you stop being present and start being alert. Always watching for signs. Always bracing for disappointment. That's not peace, that's survival mode. Detachment brings you back to yourself. Not emotional coldness, not shutting down, but a grounded awareness that your worth does not depend on someone else's consistency. When you detach peacefully, you stop reacting to every shift in mood or behavior. You stop asking questions that only create more anxiety. You stop needing answers that the other person may not even have. And that calm is unsettling in a good way. When someone expects you to chase and you don't, it interrupts the pattern. They were prepared for emotional resistance, for long conversations, for tears, for explanation. What they weren't prepared for was your quiet acceptance. Your ability to say, without words, I won't force you to stay. Peaceful detachment creates contrast. When you're no longer overavailable, the other person finally experiences life without your constant emotional presence. They begin to notice what you contributed, the encouragement, the understanding, the patience, the way you made space for them. And because it's gone, it becomes noticeable. The reason this pulls people back isn't manipulation, it's clarity. You remove the fog of emotional chaos and replace it with silence. And silence has a way of making people think. In that space, they're left with their own feelings instead of your reactions. They're left with the truth instead of the comfort of your effort. Letting go peacefully also shifts the power dynamic, not in a controlling way, but in a self-respecting one. You stop positioning yourself as the one who needs convincing. You stop trying to prove that you're worthy of love. You stand still, grounded in who you are, and allow the other person to meet you there or not. And here's the deeper truth. When someone comes back after you've let go peacefully, they come back differently. They don't return because you pleaded or pressured them. They return because they felt the loss and understood it. They return because they chose you, not because you chased them down. But even if they don't come back, something even more important happens. You come back to yourself. You rediscover your balance. You remember that love should add to your life, not drain it. You stop abandoning your own peace to keep someone else comfortable. Letting go peacefully is an act of self-trust. It says, I believe that what's meant for me won't require me to beg. It says, I am willing to lose what isn't, aligned so I can make room for what is. And that kind of peace doesn't just pull someone back, it pulls your life forward. When someone starts pulling away, most people react the same way they panic, they call it text. They try to explain, they're trying to fix what isn't broken, at least in their minds. But here's the thing, the more you push, the more you crowd, the more you chase, the further they drift. It's a hard truth, but it's a truth nonetheless. People naturally resist pressure, especially in matters of the heart. When they feel pushed, it triggers a need to protect themselves, and protection often looks like distance. The secret is not in explaining or convincing. The secret is in letting go. But letting go in a way that doesn't create chaos, doesn't create anger, doesn't create desperation. It's letting go with peace, letting go with calm, letting go while keeping your dignity intact. When you stop reacting to every change, When you stop trying to fill their absence with constant attention, you create space. And space is magnetic. Space allows them to feel what they've been missing without the pressure of being forced to face it. It's counterintuitive, but the very act of stepping back, of releasing control, often pulls them closer. Why? Because people are more aware of what they have when it isn't being handed to them on demand. When someone is used to your constant presence, your constant giving, your constant validation, they can take it for granted. But when that presence becomes steady, peaceful, and independent, suddenly they have to reckon with the reality of your value. And that awareness can stir something deep inside them, a recognition of what they're risking losing. Letting go peacefully doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean you stop feeling. It means you stop allowing your emotions to control your action. It means you trust yourself enough to know that your worth is not dependent on their choices. It means you honor your own boundaries, your own energy, your own peace. And here's the thing people notice that. People are drawn to someone who is calm, collected, self-respecting. It's magnetic. It's a force that pulls people back, not because of manipulation, but because it signals strength, stability, and confidence. Silence becomes a tool. Not the silence of avoidance or punishment, but the silence of patience, the silence of understanding, the silence of knowing that love cannot be forced. When you stop explaining, stop defending, stop chasing, the other person is left to process the situation on their own. And that process often leads them to realize their own feelings, their own attachment, and their own appreciation. It's in that quiet space that desire rekindles, that attraction reawakens. That connection has room to breathe. Peaceful detachment also protects your heart. When you chase, you invest your energy in trying to control someone else's actions, which is always exhausting and rarely successful. When you detach peacefully, your energy is preserved. Your dignity remains intact. You are not sacrificing your mental or emotional well-being to maintain someone else's interest. That kind of self-respect is powerful. It's attractive. It demonstrates that your love is not desperate, but deliberate. It communicates that you are whole, complete, and strong on your own terms. The act of letting go peacefully is also an act of patience. You allow the other person the time and space to reflect, to feel, and to choose consciously. And while you do that, you focus on yourself. You nurture yourself. You grow. You engage with your life fully. That growth, that centeredness radiates outward. It changes the energy of the relationship without a single word being spoken. It draws people back not because of guilt or fear, but because of respect, admiration, and genuine attraction. Ultimately, letting go peacefully is about trusting the process of love. It's about trusting that if someone belongs in your life, they will return with clarity and appreciation. And if they don't, you still remain whole. You still remain centered. You still remain at peace. And in that peace lies the magnetic force that naturally pulls what is meant for you back into your life, stronger, more conscious, and more aligned than ever before. When it comes to relationships, one of the hardest lessons to learn is that trying to control someone else's feelings rarely works. Most people think that if they push harder, explain more, or show up more, they can make someone stay. But the reality is that love cannot be forced. And the very act of chasing, of trying to hold on too tightly, can push someone further away. That's why letting go peacefully is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength, maturity, and self-respect. When you stop overextending yourself, stop chasing, and stop reacting to every small shift in their behavior, something remarkable happens, the dynamic changes, and often that's exactly when they start to come back. Chasing someone is exhausting. It drains your energy, your patience, and your peace of mind. You begin to revolve your life around their moods, their actions, their attention. You measure every text, every call, every interaction. You try to read between lines, anticipate their needs, and correct perceived mistakes before they even become issues. And while you're busy trying to control the outcome, your own presence loses its natural value. When you're always available, always trying, always explaining, the other person can unconsciously take that for granted. They never feel the urgency to choose you because they know you'll be there no matter what. When you step back and let go peacefully, however, the energy shifts completely. You stop reacting from fear and start responding from strength. You no longer allow your emotional state to be dictated by their choices. Instead, you focus on your own growth, your own peace, and your own happiness. And that calm confidence is magnetic. It doesn't yell. It doesn't beg. It doesn't demand it. Simply radiates stability and self-respect. People are naturally drawn to that energy because it reflects independence, dignity, and inner strength. It makes them pause and reconsider the way they've been treating you. Silence becomes one of your greatest tools. It is not the silence of punishment, resentment, or avoidance, but the silence of acceptance, patience, and understanding. You allow the space for the other person to reflect without interference. You stop over-explaining, over-justifying, and overcompensating, and in that quiet, they are left to confront their own feelings. They are left to feel the absence of your presence, to recognize the patience, love, and support that you once gave freely. Often, it's in the absence that appreciation grows, that desire reawakens, and that true clarity emerges. Letting go peacefully also preserves your own heart. Chasing someone out of fear or insecurity is emotionally draining and rarely leads to genuine connection. By stepping back, you protect your energy and your self-worth. You show that your love is not desperate or dependent, but deliberate and grounded in respect for yourself. That self-respect is incredibly attractive. It communicates that you are not willing to compromise your peace for anyone. You become someone who is whole on their own, and that completeness naturally draws others towards you. Another important aspect of letting go is that it allows the relationship to reset. When the pressure is gone, when the neediness is removed, the other person has space to choose freely. They are no longer reacting out of obligation, guilt, or convenience. They are choosing because they genuinely want to. And if they return, it's on a foundation of clarity, awareness, and mutual respect, not desperation or manipulation. Letting go peacefully is not about giving up. It's about trusting the process, trusting yourself, and trusting that love that is meant. For you will find its way back, but this time in a healthy, conscious, and respectful way. Even if the person does not return, you still win because you have maintained your dignity, preserved your energy, and aligned with your own worth. Peace is powerful. Peace draws people in. And when you release control and embrace serenity, you create an irresistible force that allows love to either return naturally or make way for what is truly aligned with you. When someone starts to pull away, it's easy to feel panic rising inside you. Your mind immediately begins to race with questions, doubts, and what ifs. You think about every word you've said, every message you sent, and every action you took that might have caused the distance. Most people respond by trying harder, texting more, calling more, explaining more, doing everything to fix what seems broken. But in reality, that constant reaching only adds pressure. It pushes the other person further away because it communicates neediness instead of confidence. People naturally resist being cornered emotionally, and chasing off creates an invisible wall between two hearts that were once close. Letting go peacefully, however, changes everything. It's not giving up or turning cold. It's choosing to stop reacting from fear and instead responding from a place of self-respect. When you let go peacefully, you remove the emotional weight that desperation carries. You stop trying to control the outcome and instead focus on your own life, your own growth, and your own peace of mind. This shift in energy is subtle but powerful. Suddenly, the relationship dynamic changes not because you manipulate anyone, but because you've become grounded in your own value. There's an old saying that absence makes the heart grow fonder. And it's true, but only when absence comes with calm, not drama. When you step back, you create space for reflection. The other person begins to feel the quiet gap where your constant attention used to be. They notice the patience, the warmth, and the stability you once provided effortlessly. And it's in that noticing that clarity begins to take shape. They have room to evaluate their own feelings, their own intentions, and their own desires without your presence influencing every decision. Peaceful detachment allows someone to confront their feelings honestly, rather than reacting out of habit or comfort. Silence becomes your ally. Not silence to punish, not silence to withhold love, but silence as a demonstration of confidence and control over your own life. You're not reacting to every mood swing or message. You're not giving explanations that are never fully appreciated. You're simply letting life flow, focusing on yourself, and trusting that the truth will surface in its own time. That kind of quiet strength speaks volumes, often more than words ever could. People are drawn to it because it's rare, because it signals emotional maturity and a deep respect for oneself. Letting go peacefully also protects your heart from unnecessary stress and emotional drain. Chasing out of fear or insecurity leaves you vulnerable, constantly anxious and dependent on someone else's validation. But when you let go, you reclaim your power. You honor your own boundaries and your own worth. You show that your love is deliberate, not desperate. That type of self-assurance is magnetic. It doesn't scream for attention. It draws people in naturally because they sense the stability and strength you possess. What's remarkable is that stepping back often pulls the other person closer, not because you've pressured them, but because they experience a contrast. They see what life is like without your constant energy, your unwavering support, and your presence that was always there. That contrast forces them to confront their own choices, to face the reality of your value, and to feel what they've been taking for granted. And if they return, they come back with a deeper understanding, a clearer intention, and a renewed appreciation. But even if they don't come back, letting go peacefully is a victory. You have chosen your dignity over fear, your peace over anxiety, and your worth over dependence. You have aligned with the truth that love cannot be forced, that relationships thrive on mutual choice, respect, and intention. Peace is magnetic. Calm is powerful. And when you stop chasing and start standing in your own strength, you either draw the right person back to you or open space for the love that truly belongs in your life. When someone begins to pull away, the natural response is often panic. Your mind races, your heart tightens, and you feel an urge to act, to reach out, explain yourself, or somehow fix what feels broken. It's an instinct that seems almost impossible to resist. After all, when we care about someone deeply, the idea of losing them feels like losing a part of ourselves. But here's the hard truth. The more you chase, the less control you actually have. Chasing creates pressure, and pressure drives people away. Even if their feelings for you were genuine, desperation can push them into distance because no one wants to feel cornered, obligated, or trapped emotionally. Letting go peacefully is the exact opposite of that panic-driven reaction. It requires courage, discipline, and a deep understanding of your own value. It's not about giving up or pretending you don't care. It's about choosing to stop allowing fear to dictate your action. When you let go with calm, you remove the drama, the neediness, and the emotional chaos from the situation. You stop trying to manipulate outcomes or control someone else's feelings, and instead you focus on your own peace, your own growth, and your own well-being. That shift in energy is subtle, but it's incredibly powerful. People sense it, even if they can't put it into words. There's a magnetic quality to someone who is grounded in themselves, who carries their heart with dignity and strength. One of the most important aspects of letting go peacefully is giving the other person space. When you stop chasing, you create absence, not absence that's resentful or punishing, but absence that allows reflection. Space gives people the opportunity to think clearly, to feel honestly, and to evaluate their own intentions. When someone is constantly met with attention, validation, or explanations, they often take it for granted, even subconsciously. But when that constant presence is replaced with calm detachment, they notice the gap. They notice the warmth, the consistency, and the care they once received freely. They begin to understand what they were missing, not because you pointed it out, but because your energy quietly communicated it. Silence is a powerful tool in this process. Not the silence of punishment, but the silence of strength. When you stop reacting to every text, every mood swing, or every perceived slight, You show that you are not dependent on external validation. You stop over-explaining yourself or overcompensating for the other person's choices. That kind of quiet confidence draws people toward you naturally. It signals that you are emotionally stable, self-respecting, and aware of your own value. It's far more attractive than desperation because it demonstrates that your love and attention are given deliberately, not out of fear. Letting go peacefully also protects your emotional energy. Chasing drains you. It keeps you in a state of anxiety and self-doubt, making your happiness contingent on someone else's actions. But stepping back allows you to reclaim your power. You preserve your dignity, your patience, and your sense of self-worth. You show that your life does not revolve around the whims of someone else. That self-assurance is magnetic. It naturally pulls people towards you because they sense the strength and completeness within you. Interestingly, when you let go with peace, it often pulls the other person closer. They are forced to face the reality of your absence and reflect on their own feelings. They may begin to recognize the effort, patience, and consistency they once took for granted. That clarity cannot be manufactured through chasing or pleading. It only arises when you step back with calm and allow them the space to understand your value. If they return, it is not out of obligation, guilt, or convenience. It is out of genuine choice, appreciation, and understanding. Even if the person does not come back, letting go peacefully is still a victory. You have chosen your dignity over fear, your peace over anxiety, and your self-worth over dependence. You have learned that love cannot be forced and that relationships thrive only when both people are choosing each other consciously. Peace, calm, and self-respect are forces far stronger than chasing. They either attract the right person into your life or clear space for love that is truly meant for you. Either way, you win because you are aligned with your own value, your own heart, and your own life.